I moved to this small coastal town a few months ago. I was 35, trying to escape the chaos of city life. I thought a place like this would help me find some peace. I work as a graphic designer from home, so I could pick any spot to work. I often chose one of the old watchtowers on the cliffs. There was something both calm and unsettling about being so isolated there. Each evening I set up my laptop facing the ocean. The sound of the waves was the only thing I needed to feel relaxed. At least, that's what I thought. But after a while, I noticed something odd. Right around midnight, a low murmur filled the air. At first I dismissed it as the wind, but the whispers became clearer every night. They were faint, almost familiar. I didn't know whether to be afraid or curious. One night, after finishing a project, I stepped outside for a break. I leaned against the tower's wall, straining to hear those voices. The chill from the cliffs wrapped around me. I swear I saw a shadowy figure at the tower's base. I looked closer, but nothing was there. I brushed it off as tiredness. I heard the townsfolk tell strange stories too. They said they saw lights flickering near the cliffs. Some mentioned carvings appearing on the rocks. It made me uneasy. Whenever I brought it up, they changed the subject. It felt like I was on the outside. I wanted to know more, but no one seemed willing to share. Then the figure I'd seen became clearer. One late night, I glanced outside and saw it again. My heart raced as I could make out a dark shape standing still against the tower. I rubbed my eyes, thinking it was my imagination, but it was still there, watching me. I felt a knot in my stomach. I had to confront it. I stepped outside, clutching my laptop like a shield. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. The whispers grew louder, but still sounded like a language I didn't understand. Waiting for a response, I felt cold sweat on my neck. And then I heard it. Right behind me a voice said, "Why are you here?" I spun around, but there was no one there. The night was silent, and I felt heavier. I didn't know what to think. Those whispers lingered, wrapping around me. I felt a pull towards the tower, like it held secrets I needed to uncover. The more I tried to shy away from it, the more compelled I felt. What had I unwittingly stumbled into? I spent the next day on edge. My work felt different, clouded by the night's events. I couldn't focus. The whispers from the tower haunted me. I wanted answers, but I also wanted to retreat into my routine. As evening approached, however, the pull of the watchtower became too strong to resist. I packed my laptop and took a deep breath as I made my way to the cliffs. The waves crashed below, and the sky painted itself in deep shades of orange and purple. It was beautiful, but the beauty felt tainted. The tower loomed above me, dark and silent against the fading light. When I arrived, I noticed something new. Carvings, strange and crude, had appeared on the base of the tower. They looked almost like figures intertwined, faces twisted in pain or fear. I couldn't make sense of them. I snapped a few photos with my phone, hoping to study them more closely later. As I did, a cold gust of wind swept through, rattling me to my core. That night, I set up my laptop, trying to channel my anxiety into work. The waves and whispers filled the air as I typed, but my mind kept drifting. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Suddenly, the low murmur came again, swirling around me. The sound swelled until it felt like it was coming from inside the tower itself. I paused, my hands still. This time, the whispers sounded urgent, more insistent, growing louder and more frenzied. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I glanced around, half expecting the shadowy figure to emerge from the darkness. Instead, I saw a flicker of light from the cliffs below. I decided to investigate. Gathering my courage, I crept down the path to where the light danced, pulsing rhythmically. As I neared, I could see it was a small fire, and around it were more of those strange carvings, arranged in a circle. People sat with their backs to me. My heart raced as I felt the weight of their presence. I strained to hear their conversation, but could only make out snippets. Words like, "the time has come," and "only the chosen" sent shivers down my spine. I stepped back, wanting to find safety, but feeling compelled to stay. Who were these people? Were they connected to the tower's shadow? Suddenly, one of them turned, a figure cloaked in darkness. I felt exposed, as if my every thought had been laid bare. Then I heard what they said next. "We need one more." My stomach dropped. They were talking about me. Before I could react, the light flickered once more, and then went out altogether. The whispers intensified, enveloping me in a cacophony of sound. I was alone in the dark, surrounded by an unsettling silence. They knew I was there. And then I felt it. Someone was standing behind me. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The presence behind me felt heavy, almost palpable. I dared not turn around. My instinct screamed at me to run, but my feet were rooted to the ground. I could hear my heart pounding, echoing in the stillness. "Who's there?" I finally managed to whisper. No reply came, just the soft rustle of fabric and a shift in the air. It was as if the darkness itself had taken form and was waiting for me to make my move. Finally, I summoned the courage to glance over my shoulder. The figure was obscured, shrouded in shadows, but I could see the faint outline of a face. It was pale and expressionless, almost featureless, an unsettling void in the oppressive night. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was studying me, assessing me. "What do you want? I'm not part of this," I said, my voice trembling. They took a step closer, the air around me feeling charged, electric. I felt the whispers returning, swirling around us like a storm. I thought I heard my name, but it was indistinct, lost in the chaos. In that moment of panic, I turned and bolted. I sprinted through the brush, branches scratching at my arms, as I raced back to the cliff. I kept my eyes forward, not daring to look back. I needed to put distance between me and that figure. I couldn't let them catch me. As I reached the top, I stumbled and fell, scraping my palms on the ground. I looked back, my chest heaving. The path was empty. Had I really escaped? Or was it just waiting, lurking in the shadows? I stood up, brushing dirt from my clothes. Somehow, I knew I had to gather my thoughts. I needed answers about the carvings, the group, and that strange figure. I couldn't ignore the signs anymore. The connection to the tower was clearer now than ever. Those people had been calling for someone, and they had set their sights on me. I turned back toward the tower, the sky above thickening with clouds. My instincts told me to leave, yet curiosity gnawed at my mind. What if they were trying to warn me? What if they needed help? Before I could make sense of it all, a flash of light flickered near the tower. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the faint glow. They raised a hand slowly, pointing directly at me. That's when I saw it. A strange symbol glowing faintly on the tower's surface, pulsing as if it were alive. It looked like one of the carvings I'd seen earlier. My heart raced again with a mix of fear and determination. I had to know what this meant. But as I started forward, the ground beneath me trembled, and the whispering crescendoed into a deafening roar. I glanced back, and the cloaked figure was there, closer now, its features sharpening in the half-light. I was about to discover just how deep the mystery of the Watchtower went, and whether I was more than just a spectator in this twisted tale. I took a hesitant step toward the tower, the cold air biting at my skin. The glowing symbol seemed to breathe in the dim light, its energy pulling me closer. My mind raced with questions, but I couldn't afford to hesitate. There was something vital about understanding the markings, and I felt an undeniable pull. When I reached the tower, I stretched out my hand toward the symbol. My fingertips brushed against the stone, and a jolt of energy shot through me. I jerked back, heart racing once more. What was that? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, and leaned in closer. The symbol was intricate, more than I initially thought. It twisted and turned like a vine, weaving into shapes that seemed familiar yet strange. As I studied it, I felt the whispers return, clearer now, overlapping each other. They were not just random sounds, they felt like fragmented messages, waiting to be pieced together. Suddenly, the figure from the woods reappeared just beyond the edge of the trees. I could see the outline more clearly now, tattered clothing and a hood that concealed most of their face. My heart dropped, and I pulled away from the tower. "Stay back!" I yelled, though my voice trembled with uncertainty. Instead of retreating, the figure stepped forward, and the whispering seemed to crescendo. Just then, another flash of light illuminated the area, revealing more of the symbol's detail. To my shock, other symbols appeared around it, etched into the stone of the tower, as though they had been hidden in the shadows until now. It was a pattern, a language I couldn't decipher, but felt like it resonated with me. In that moment, I knew I had to take control of the situation. Nerves tingled in my hands, and I reached for the inner pocket of my jacket where I had kept a small flashlight. Maybe I could find a way to illuminate the mysteries carved into this ancient structure. As I clicked it on, a beam pierced the darkness, illuminating the symbols around me. But now I faced a new complication. The figure stood frozen, watching me. I felt an unexpected sense of connection, as if they were waiting for something. What did they want? A part of me wanted to run, to escape the confrontation entirely, but another part was curious. I had to know. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt, but the figure simply pointed to the symbols, as if prompting me to understand their meaning. Then came a deep rumble, and the ground shook again, this time intensifying beneath my feet. Fear shot through me. I felt trapped between the mystery of the tower and the figure's gaze. The air grew thick, wrapping around me like a shroud. That's when the whispers turned into a shout calling my name. It was clear and urgent, a demand. I stumbled back, my breath quickening again as I understood the urgency. Then everything went dark. The flashlight flickered, and I felt a strong wind whip around me. I had to make a decision. Confront the figure, or decipher the symbols that seemed to tie my fate to this strange place. And as I stood there, caught in the storm of uncertainty, I knew I was just at the beginning of something that would change everything. I gasped as the darkness enveloped me, heart pounding in my chest. It was as if someone had snuffed out all the light, leaving me alone with the wind's howls. A violent gust rattled the trees around the tower, sending a chill down my spine. I could barely see my hand in front of my face, and panic clawed at my throat. Then the dark faded just enough for me to notice a faint glow, different from the symbol on the tower. It pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing me toward it. I took tentative steps, moving away from the tower and deeper into the shadows. The figure was still there, but all I could see was the outline. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I could not ignore the glow. "Wait!" I called out, my voice cracking. The figure didn't move, but that did little to calm my fears. Instead, I took a few more steps towards the light, its warmth embracing me despite the crisp air. As I got closer, the glow revealed a small stone embedded in the ground, shining brightly with strange symbols etched into its surface. A new wave of whispers erupted, this time clearer than before. It felt like the ground was alive beneath me, urging me to listen. I knelt, feeling that same energy that had surged through me at the tower. My fingertips grazed the stone surface, sending a ripple of warmth into my palms. That's when I noticed something even stranger. The markings were not just random symbols. They formed a pattern that mirrored the one at the tower. A connection fused in my mind, weaving threads of meaning, but I couldn't capture it all. Part of me felt exhilarated, while another part of me was terrified of what I might uncover. I glanced back at the figure, still just standing at the edge of the trees. "What do you want from me?" I shouted. My voice trembled, revealing a sliver of fear buried beneath my defiance. In response, the figure merely pointed again towards the glowing stone, as if urging me to keep exploring. Suddenly the wind changed direction, swirling around me with a dizzying force. The ground trembled once more, and I heard a sound like rending fabric, followed by more whispers, angry, insistent. I straightened up, fully aware that the balance of this moment teetered precariously. Whatever force was at play wanted my attention. But what did it want? I resisted stepping backward. This was my moment to be brave. Then came the shattering noise, echoing through the night. My heart lurched when I turned around, and to my horror, the figure that had been so still was moving closer, emerging from the gloom. Their movements were slow, deliberate, and there was something unsettling in the way they approached. "Stop!" I yelled again, now more of a plea than a command. I didn't know what would happen next, but I felt the weight of the symbols, the energy of the land, and the enigmatic presence of the figure pressing in on me. I had to scream for help, but no sound came out. Instead, my focus remained fixed on the glowing stone. Something was waiting for me there, a truth that may unlock everything, even the figure's intentions. Before I could think it through, I reached down to grab the stone. And then an icy tendril of fear wrapped around me as the whispers transformed into a single guttural voice. "You must choose," it roared. The choice loomed, stark and terrifying. I didn't know if I was ready for what I was about to uncover, but the answer was close enough to taste. I jerked my hand back from the stone as if it had burned me. Panic surged through me. The voice echoed in my mind, demanding an answer I wasn't prepared to give. "Choose," I whispered, but the wind swallowed my words whole. The figure stepped closer, its outline sharpening against the dim light. I noticed it was taller than I initially thought, cloaked in shadow, with an indistinct face that seemed to shift with every breath of wind. A sense of urgency gripped me as I realized that staying still wouldn't help. "Please, I don't understand," I shouted, my voice rising above the wind. I took a step back, but the earth beneath my feet felt like it was pulling me inward, as if the ground itself wanted to keep me there. The figure pointed again at the stone, a gesture both sinister and compelling. I forced myself to look at it again. The symbols pulsed brightly in response to my fear, as if they had a heartbeat of their own. It was a sign. But a sign of what? I could feel the weight of a decision pressing in on me. Just then the ground trembled again. This time it wasn't just a subtle shake. A fissure opened to my left, jagged and dark, like a wound in the earth. From it a low growl emanated, deep and primal. Instinctively I turned to run, but something stopped me. A flicker of thought, a spark of curiosity. I had to know why I was drawn here in the first place. With newfound determination, I crouched next to the glowing stone, feeling the energy radiate around me. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, into the chaos. The voice answered clearer than before. "Choose the path, or be consumed." The growl intensified, shaking the ground, echoing off the trees. I was running out of time. I set my jaw and focused on the stone. One symbol stood out from the others, a swirling design that reminded me of a spiral. My breath caught in my throat as I reached for it again, compelled by an urge I couldn't explain. The moment my fingers brushed against its surface, a shockwave of energy coursed through me, filling my mind with flashes of images, strange places, tough choices, and faces I couldn't recognize. Then, just as fast as it came, the vision faded, leaving me gasping for breath. But in its wake, a sense of clarity took root. "The choice is about truth," I murmured to myself. I could feel the figure watching, waiting. But what truth? Why was it so important? Before I could dwell on it further, the growling grew louder, an ominous warning. I finally looked up and my heart sank. The figure was gone, but the darkness around me thickened. I was alone again, with just the stone's glow and the howling wind for company. Then I heard a rustling sound behind me. I turned, ready to shout again, but then everything went quiet. Something was moving in the dark, something heavy and intent. My mind raced. Was this the monster the voice warned me about? There, at the edge of the light, shadows coalesced into a shape. The musty scent of earth and decay washed over me. I could not think. I could only react. I grabbed the stone tightly and backed away, my pulse quickening, and just like that, the shadows lunged forward. As I felt something swipe past me, I realized I had to run, but in the chaos, I had one last thought. What if the truth I sought was hidden within the dark? I turned to flee, adrenaline flooding my veins. The moment I spun on my heel, my feet slipped in the damp soil, sending me stumbling backward. Panic threatened to swallow me whole. I pushed myself back up, breathless and disoriented, still clutching the stone like it was my only lifeline. The shadows had shifted again, moving as if alive, pressing closer. I could feel them at my back, a tangible weight pulling me toward the darkness. I had to move. I dashed forward, trusting instinct over thought, as I sprinted into the dense trees surrounding me. The howls of the wind wrapped around me like a cloak, but they couldn't drown out the sinister growling that now seemed to surround me on all sides. Branches snagged at my clothes, thorns tearing at my skin, but I kept going. Each step felt heavier, as if the very forest sought to ensnare me. I refused to look back, knowing the moment I did would be my end. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flicker of light. It pulsed in the distance, illuminating a small clearing. I changed direction, making my way toward it. As I broke through the last of the trees into the open, I paused, my breath hitching in my throat. The light came from another stone, smaller than the one I'd just touched, yet intensely glowing. It was surrounded by swirling symbols, similar to those I had seen before, but these were different. They seemed to dance, shifting and rearranging with every breath of wind, beckoning me closer. I stepped forward hesitantly, my heart thudding. I was drawn to it, just as I had been to the first stone. But what if touching it was a mistake? I could feel the shadows closing in again, the growl resonating in the air like a taunting melody. Something primal warned me that hesitation could cost me everything. Just one more choice, I whispered to myself, a mantra to bolster my resolve. Would this new stone yield the truth, or further entangle me in the darkness pursuing me? I crouched close, examining the symbols, each whispering secrets I couldn't quite discern. But then I noticed something, a difference in tone, a warmth that contrasted with the coldness encroaching from behind. That's when I saw it, a vision. The stone ignited within my mind. I saw faces, memories, and fragments of conversations that felt unnervingly familiar. But there was one face that stood out, my own, reflected back at me in a way that made my spine tingle. I leaned in, desperate to understand, when suddenly all the warmth from the stone flickered and went dark. An intense silence followed, and I froze, paralyzed by the abrupt change. The growling transformed, morphing into a low, rumbling laughter. Heart pounding, I knew something was coming. As I spun around, shadows twisted into a figure, its features still indistinct but unmistakably solid and approaching rapidly. My heart raced. "What do you want?" I shouted into the void. But the sound echoed back, as if it carried no weight. Just as I prepared to bolt back into the woods, the shadows halted, and a chilling voice sliced through the silence. "You chose truth, but are you ready to face it?" The air grew thick with tension, and the truth loomed before me, too close for comfort. The growl resumed, but now it reverberated with menace. I had to make a choice, but right then I had no idea where the path would lead. The figure loomed closer, shrouded in darkness, yet somehow more solid than any shadow I had ever encountered. My instinct screamed at me to run, but my feet felt rooted to the earth. Every nerve in my body tingled with fear, and I struggled to remember what had drawn me to this stone in the first place. "Face it," the voice hissed again, echoing through the clearing. "You think you are searching for truth, but are you ready to bear its weight?" I clenched the stone in my hand, its surface cool against my palm. "I don't even know what that means," I yelled, desperation rising in my throat. The shadows shifted, pulsating with an energy I couldn't quite comprehend. The darkness pressed closer, drowning the light from the stone. I needed to think clearly, but my mind was racing. What had I seen? My face. It had to mean something. Was it a warning or a glimpse into my past? The growling intensified, a cacophony that threatened to overwhelm my senses. "Your past is what binds you," the figure replied, its voice layered with an unnerving calmness. "Let go, or be consumed." A rush of adrenaline propelled me into motion. I turned and sprinted back towards the trees. The growl turned into howling laughter, a sinister melody that echoed my fear. Twisted roots seemed to reach out, trying to trip me as I navigated the thicket. Each footfall felt heavier, as if the forest itself was attempting to hold me back. Then a flash of movement caught my eye, a blur darting behind a tree. I skidded to a stop, heart in my throat. "Who's there?" I shouted, trying to steady my breath. The laughter paused momentarily, a tense silence falling over the woods. From the shadows stepped a figure, not as imposing as the previous one, but still cloaked in mystery. A flicker of recognition coursed through me as I took in the familiar features, though time and terror had changed them. "Evelyn?" I gasped, disbelief flooding through me. Memories surged, her laughter, our late-night talks, the secrets we had once shared, but now her eyes held a darkness that felt ancient. "You should not have come here," she said, and her voice was thick with an unrecognizable tone. "Not now. This place, it's consuming. You don't know what you're dealing with." I shook my head, words catching in my throat. I just want answers." She stepped forward, a thin veil of shadows wrapped around her like mist. "You have to leave. The truth is not what you think. It's bigger, darker." Then, in a flash, the laughter returned, ringing in my ears. The figure I had seen before emerged again, towering over both of us. "She is right, little seeker. Leave now and perhaps you will find peace." But peace felt impossibly far away. An icy grip of fear coiled in my chest. I took a step back, suddenly feeling like the ground was giving way beneath me. "No!" I cried out, but it was too late. The shadows clawed at my ankles, pulling me down deeper into the darkness. As I fought against the invisible force, I glanced at Evelyn's face, searching for an answer, but her expression was one of pain, as if accepting a fate I could barely grasp. Then everything went dark, and I knew I was lost. I jolted awake, gasping for breath. The cold, damp earth pressed against my back, and for a moment the panic surged back. Then I remembered. The shadows, Evelyn, the darkness consuming me. I pushed myself up, heart racing, scanning my surroundings. I was still in the woods, though the oppressive darkness had shifted. Moonlight flickered through the trees, creating ghostly shapes across the ground. A few feet away, the stone I had clutched before lay untouched, glowing softly. I grabbed it instinctively, feeling its cool surface steady me. But what was it, really? "Evelyn!" I called out, my voice trembling and swallowed by the night. Silence answered, heavy and thick. I felt alone, yet the weight of eyes seemed to watch from the shadows. I stood up fully, brushing dirt off my clothes. I had to understand what had happened. I had to find Evelyn. The woods felt alive, whispering secrets I couldn't quite hear. I moved cautiously, the underbrush cracking softly beneath my feet. Every noise felt amplified, making it hard to concentrate. I tried to recall what Evelyn had said. "The truth is not what you think." What did it mean? My thoughts spiraled, a tangled web of fear, memories and questions. Each step was a battle between wanting to turn back and the need to find answers. I came to a clearing, and the atmosphere shifted again. Shadows seemed to breathe, pulsing, and a chill ran down my spine. The trees formed a sort of natural circle, with the stone centerpiece glowing brighter now. That's when I saw it, figures emerging from the dark edges of the clearing. They were tall and indistinct, swaying slightly, almost as if they were part of the shadows themselves. I froze, breath caught in my throat. The laughter returned, not from a singular being this time, but as a chorus echoing around me. "Welcome back, Seeker," a voice said, smooth but unsettling. "Did you think you could run from your fate?" I gripped the stone tighter, its glow flickering in response to my rising fear. "I'm not afraid of you," I shouted, though inside I felt like collapsing. "Not afraid," one of the figures taunted. They drew closer, revealing half-formed faces that seemed familiar yet distorted. "Your past is already here. It always has been." A sudden movement in the corner caught my eye. A blur shot past, disappearing into the underbrush. My heart raced. "Evelyn!" I cried out again, desperation taking over. She had to be here, but where? One of the figures pointed. "You can't hide from what you've already seen. We'll help you remember." Their voices melded into one, swirling around me like smoke. "No, I don't want to remember," I yelled, panic surging. But something inside me whispered that I was trapped here, bound to confront these memories. Then I heard it. A sound unlike any other. A low rumbling that felt like the forest itself shifting. Suddenly the ground beneath me trembled, cracks forming, splitting the earth. Panic flooded through me. I stumbled back, my eyes wide. "What's happening?" My heart raced as I glanced at the figures, their shadows lengthening like dark tendrils. "Embrace it," they chorused, eyes glinting with something darker. As the ground gave way, I felt myself falling. The laughter roared around me, washing over my senses. I clawed at the air, but it was too late. I realized then with chilling clarity, I wasn't just falling into darkness. I was plunging into the depths of my own truth. The world faded to black as I fell. The rushing silence enveloped me, thick and cold. Just when I thought I would be swallowed whole by the void, something caught me. A flash of light erupted around me, bright and blinding. I gasped, my senses assaulted by the sudden shift. I was no longer tumbling through the dark. I was suspended somewhere between the ground and the sky, surrounded by an iridescent glow. As clarity returned, I found myself standing on solid ground. The sensation of familiarity washed over me. It was the clearing again, but this time it was different. The figures that had once been menacing were now fluid, swirling, their forms shifting in a mesmerizing dance that radiated warmth instead of cold. I blinked, unsure whether to feel relief or fear. "Welcome back," one of the figures said, with a tone that resonated deep within me, echoing over and over again. "You sought the truth. Now you must choose how to embrace it." But how could I embrace a truth I didn't yet understand? The ground hummed with energy, and the symbols from the stone flickered to life around me, illuminating everything in shades of gold and azure. I clenched the stone tighter, feeling its pulse aligning with my heartbeat. "What am I meant to do?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. The winds shifted, carrying faint whispers, like half-remembered dreams, but their meaning was still unclear. I felt lighter, yet weighed down by urgency. "The truth carries no chains," the figure replied, moving closer. "It reveals what lies within, but you must open your heart to it. Only then will you see." The words hung in the air, heavy with promise and expectation. But I had questions, more than answers. The same shadows lurked around the edges of my mind. "What happened to Evelyn? Why did I see her? She was—" "Your past," another figure interjected, nodding knowingly. "Evelyn is part of you. This place reflects your fears and desires, binding them together. You cannot deny her because she is your truth." I felt a pang in my chest. The memory of her, her laughter, the secrets we'd shared slipped away like sand through my fingers. Had I been running from something greater than mere fear? "I don't understand," I half-shouted, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Perhaps it is not understanding you seek," the first figure said softly. "It is acceptance." A rush of air surrounded me, pulling me toward the ground. The shadows thickened, swirling around my feet, urging me to remember. I closed my eyes, overwhelmed by the cacophony of memories. I could see Evelyn, feel her warmth, but also the distance that had grown between us. The laughter that once bonded us now echoed painfully in the depths of my heart. Before I could call out her name, new images burst through the surface. More memories, heavy with regret, filled with choices I'd made, paths I'd taken, and moments where I had lost myself. What if I don't want this truth? I gasped into the void surrounding me. Then it will consume you. The figures chorused, their voices stronger. But remember, Seeker, truth can also set you free. Choose to face it. With a deep breath, I felt a surge of determination, standing firm amidst the chaos. I opened my eyes, embracing the weight of everything that haunted me, the past, my vulnerabilities and my fears. I choose to see, I declared, voice trembling yet resolute. In response, the aura brightened. The whispers transformed, thickening into a cohesive voice. I heard my name, not as a plea, but as a call to recognize who I truly was. Colors around me shifted, the symbols swirling upward like a panorama unraveling before me, creating links in my mind. Pieces clicked together, the choices I'd made, the moments escaped, and the connection to Evelyn crystallized. And then, in a flash of comprehension, I caught a glimpse of my truth, a pathway illuminated. It was intertwined with the shadows, not separate from them. My heart raced as the realization struck me. Accepting my fears was not submitting to them. It was reclaiming my power, my narrative. As the ephemeral chorus surged in affirmation, the ground beneath me shimmered. I felt lighter, almost ethereal, as the realm of memories transformed around me into vibrant hues of understanding. Even so, looming at the periphery, remained the question of what awaited me after this moment, drifting silently between the tangible and the otherworldly. Then suddenly, silence enveloped me again, and the brilliance faded. I stood alone in the clearing, the figures vanished, and the stone lay at my feet, dull and inert, yet pulsing with the energy of a truth I had faced. But Evelyn was still gone. I turned, scanning the shadows, my heart heavy with unanswered questions. Moving away from the clearing, I felt an invisible tether calling me back to the tower, the site of forgotten words and lingering whispers. I knew I couldn't escape its pull. Not yet. The truth still begged for resolution. I stepped forward, ready, or perhaps resigned, to confront whatever awaited me next. That night, beneath the stars that flickered like old memories, I turned away from the clearing. I stepped into the shadows of a world brimming with secrets, carrying with me the echoes of truth and the lingering questions that would forever shape my journey.